It is another Friday, so let's get to some questions from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, doing the show today from my workplace here at Sports Radio 810 WHB. So no podcasting background for Friday, but you've seen me do this before if you have listened to this podcast. Now, how you find us, very, very simple. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. Or you can download us on wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For those first-time listeners, here's how the format works. We bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes, and we also have some YouTube shorts after every single Royals game. Those go about 60 seconds long. So, yes, you can expect those to happen tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday for the Royals and Twins series. And you can also expect some episodes on Saturday and Sunday since I didn't have any episodes on Monday and Tuesday. Always want to make sure we are meeting those 5 episodes a week. Now, before we dive into anything, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So get started today over at FanDuel. Well, this Friday and every Friday moving forward is always going to be dedicated to you, the listener. You can leave questions on YouTube videos. You can reach out to me directly on Twitter, and we're going to answer those questions over the 30-minute stretch. But right as I'm recording this episode, and I'm probably 5 minutes removed from this breaking news happening, so it'll be much later by the time this episode actually comes out. But the breaking news is that the Royals finally cut ties with Hunter Renfroe. They designated him for assignment. I would highly doubt that anybody puts a claim on him, and I would highly doubt that he would take a AAA assignment to go to Omaha. So we've probably seen the last of Hunter Renfroe in a Royals uniform. And in a corresponding move, the Royals did call up Nick Lofton from Omaha. So talk about the timing. I was actually just talking about it on The Zone with Jason Anderson and Sterling Holmes about what roster moves they could make. I didn't expect Hunter Renfroe to have his time cut short today. That is the official news that Hunter Renfroe no longer with Kansas City and Nick Lofton getting called up in his place. Now let's get to the questions today, and we're going to kick it off with the first question coming from George. With how tight this division is, how important are these division games this year? What record do you think we need to have to win the American League Central? If the Royals have a winning record against the Central, I would say they're automatically going to be in the postseason because of how good the division has been this year and how just having a winning record against your division was compared to other playoff teams that have a winning record against your division. It also means you need to play 500 ball still against the really good teams that are over 500, and you need to beat up on the bad teams. And there's only one really bad team in the Central, and that's Chicago White Sox. And so far, Kansas City is 4-0. But it is important because if they get beat up by everybody else in the Central that is ahead of them, they're going to find themselves in 4th place when it's all said and done. And even though right now, all 4 of those teams are going to be in the postseason if the season ended today, that's not going to be the case by the end of the year. I could see 3 teams getting in like last year, but not 4 teams. So they need to have a winning record or at least be 500 against the Central, in my opinion, because that will make things a lot easier on the rest of their schedule. Next one comes from Dave. Which prospects/players would you be willing to give up for a big trade? Want to say I touched on this a little bit last week. In my opinion, there are very few untouchable guys in the system. Jack Caglione is one of them. I really would not want to see them part ways with Carter Jensen or Blake Mitchell. But if you are getting a big-time player in return, you got to be able to fork over some talent. And everybody knows to acquire good talent, you got to give up good talent. And prospects are never a sure thing. And that's the case also with Jack Caglione. We don't know with any prospect what they are truly going to become. Some work out really well. Some work out just fine. Some are average and some are absolute busts. And it's hard to predict what they truly can be. But I would say Jack Caglione is that one true untouchable. And I would say that everybody else should at least be open for discussion. Now, it's going to take a big return. you would need to get a big-time player to trade away a couple of guys in your top 5. But to me personally, I would say Caglione is the one true untouchable in this organization. Number 2 on this list, or number 3, I should say, is from Steve. With 2 starting pitchers on the IL, what are the chances of Alec Marsh and Kyle Wright pitching with the Royals sooner rather than later? I'm not confident any of them are very close. Alec Marsh, I don't believe, is as close as Kyle Wright, and Kyle Wright just had a setback when he was in Northwest Arkansas with some shoulder soreness, which that is what kept him out all of last year. That is concerning to me. What I would say right now, I wouldn't worry about any of those guys pitching until they are actually in AAA. And once they get there, then we can put a true timeline on them. Next one comes from Robert. What do you think is the causation for their poor base running this year? I know they like to be aggressive, but that doesn't mean you have to be stupid. Between getting thrown out and general blunders, they dash a lot of opportunities to score. And maybe it is the pressing matter of trying to get this situation handled, and they are putting more pressure on themselves to steal bases, to get in scoring position because the offense has been so bad. That's what I was trying to get at there with it being a pressing matter. The offense is not playing well, and so they are trying to be extra aggressive on the bases. I can live with getting thrown out on a steal attempt. I cannot not live with getting thrown out at third base for the first out or the last out. I cannot live with being stupidly aggressive. I'm all right with being aggressive, but there are limits to it. And the Royals have to understand in certain moments when the right time to do that is. And unfortunately, through 51 games, they've had a lot of boneheaded mistakes on the base paths. I don't know if there's an exact reason, but I would say they might be trying to do too much to make up for the offense struggling so much. Next one comes from Colson. I'm going to Target Field on Sunday for the game. I want to give some credit to Chris Bubich this year so far, and how far has he passed your expectations? Also, I'm just glad that I don't have to watch us face Joe Ryan. I'm right there with you. Thank God they don't have to face Joe Ryan in this series, and hopefully they don't have to face him when they come back to Kansas City. Well, first and foremost, have fun at the game on Sunday. I've been to Target Field before. I think it's a beautiful ballpark. Hopefully you'll get the good weather, and you get the ace right now of the Royals staff and Chris Bubich throwing. As for how much he's exceeded expectations for me, he has drastically exceeded them. I thought he was going to shine in the rotation. I did not expect him to have a sub-1.5 ERA in the first 10 starts of the year and be one of the most valuable pitchers in all of baseball. But this was the upside that you were maybe contemplating in the offseason. At least the Royals were contemplating. And I remember talking about it in the offseason, and I said, look, the risk-reward here far more favors the reward. If he goes to the rotation and dominates, you've got a guy that's better than Brady Singer, who he needed to replace. If he fails in the rotation, you know he can pitch well in the bullpen. So that's the fallback there. There was not a huge risk, in my opinion. You know, the worst-case scenario would be he's not stretched out enough and he gets hurt at some point. And so you knock on wood for that. Don't worry, I'm knocking right here. But he was stretched out all the offseason. He was somebody that put an emphasis on making sure he was ready to start, and he's just been so phenomenal this year. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and hopefully you get another excellent start from Chris Bubich. This one comes from Reese. What do you think of the list of guys we could trade for? Kyle Stowers, Josh Lowe, Alex Call, Brian Reynolds, and with Reynolds' big contract, maybe we get him for cheap. Don't hate those names. My favorite would be the first guy you listed in Kyle Stowers. Miami's going to be a selling team. I'm curious if Kyle Stowers is one of the guys they might try to move because of the return they would get. Stowers is somebody they just acquired last year. They might view him as a young piece they can have for years of control. He's a piece they build around, but he is 27, and this is a breakout year for him. So if they believe this is the best value he can be and you need to get more prospects, I could see them moving him, and that does fit what the Royals are looking for. An outfielder that can help this lineup, can lengthen this lineup, and he's got years of control. It wouldn't be very cheap. It would be an expensive trade, but that might be a guy that you're willing to take a chance on and really mold this lineup. So he would by far and away be the number one option, in my opinion. Logan's question, hey, Jack, what's your leash on Massey? Another month maybe. Before Wednesday, he was 3 for his last 29. Still waiting on that consistent pop because he's really not a gap-to-gap hitter. The leash on Massey is still pretty long, in my opinion. If it got to a point where he is by far and away the worst hitter in the American League by July, then maybe you need to make the hard decision and demote him to AAA, or you move him to a bench spot. And I would say that, Nick Lofton could take his spot, or maybe a Cam Devaney could take his spot. But where the Royals are right now, I don't see them cutting ties with him or demoting him. They're probably banking on him turning into the hitter that he was last year, which was a league average bat. Okay, let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, we still have a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Before we go any further, I want to let you know that FanDuel is today's title sponsor. And with FanDuel, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Certainly got one with Tyrese Halliburton the other night. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And for my pick for FanDuel tonight, I am going to take the over on points for Tyrese Halliburton. I'm going to take the over on points for Jalen Brunson and the over on total rebounds for Karl Anthony Towns. Our next set of questions is going to begin here with Colton. Coors is by far the best beer for baseball, but I was wondering, do you miss the early 2000s jerseys that had the gray vest and black sleeves? And they used to be one of my favorite jerseys. I do not miss those. That vest era was certainly something in baseball. If I was to miss a jersey from that time period, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the black uniforms because they just didn't match anything the Royals were doing. But of that era, because of nostalgia, I would say that would be the one I go with. But I was never a huge fan of the vest uniforms. But, hey, I love the uniqueness of them, so I can see your reasoning to that. This one comes from Cole. What spark does this offense need, and do you think Drew Waters should be an everyday player? The spark they need is their 3-hole hitter or their 4-hole hitter, Benny Pasquantino and Salvador Perez, to go on an absolute tear. That's what they need for the rest of this offense to kick it into gear. That's been my opinion now for a couple of weeks, and that's going to continue to be my opinion until they eventually get it done. Now, as for Drew Waters, is he an everyday player? For now, he is. I think he's the best of what they can put out there in right field. Of course, I told you when this episode began, Hunter Renfroe's been DFA'd, so you're not going to see him in there anymore. Drew Waters needs to be playing every day in right field until he proves he can't handle that spot anymore. Is he the long-term solution? That's something I'm not quite sure of just yet. This one comes from Brian. After watching a few Storm Chasers games, Cam Devaney looks like a player. Any chance we would see him up this year? Yes, I do believe Cam Devaney will get a shot this year. If they get rid of Kevin Biggio at any point, I believe Devaney would be that answer because Cam Devaney can move around a little bit. So however long that leash is with Kevin Biggio, I believe that when that leash is snapped and when it's gone, that Cam Devaney would be the guy they're calling up from AAA Omaha. This one comes from Frenchie. Hi, Jack. Been listening for about 2 seasons now, so I wanted to ask a question for the mailbag if possible. What do you think is a possible solution for the lack of offensive production recently? Frenchie, I would say that the lack of production kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about, the 3 and 4 hole hitters. If you're not getting a ton of runs, a ton of production from those spots, it's going to drastically affect your offense. And that, I believe, is the main issue with this group. They are getting enough from Garcia. They're getting enough from Isbell. They're getting enough from Bobby Witt Jr. They are getting enough from Drew Waters. They are getting enough from Mark Canha. They need their 2 RBI guys to start hitting like true RBI guys. So that would be my answer to getting the offensive productivity back up to around league average. This one is, I believe that actually wraps it up here with Frenchie. Oh, we do have one more here from Jason. Any new updates on Hunter Harvey? Will he be back sooner rather than later? No true updates just yet. They want to make sure everything's all calmed down before they would give him another bullpen and then they would send him back out in a rehab assignment. So when that happens, I'm sure I'll be able to let you know on one of these episodes. If I missed any of your questions on YouTube, please, please, please reach out. Again, respond with a comment on this video so you do get your question answered. I want to make sure that everybody will have a chance to hear my opinion on what you were trying to ask. But that'll do it for YouTube questions. Now let's jump over to Twitter. This one comes from Jeff. If Salvi gets healthy with that hip, does he get to 300 career home runs this year, or will it be next season? He's at 276. So to get healthy, I mean, over the next 110-ish games, he's got to get 24 more home runs. I would say it's not going to happen this year. If he's back next year and healthy, then yes, he's going to get to 300. But I'd imagine he gets to about 20 this year. So 17 more home runs. I don't know if he's going to be able to get to, what would that be, 27 total this year. So I would say that it's going to take some type of surge to get Salvador Perez to 300 this year, but I'm not worried that this will be his final year of baseball. He is absolutely going to get to 300. Just don't know if it'll be this year or next year. My money would probably be on next year. This one comes from John. Should the Royals move Salvi down in the batting order? It's worth a thought. I just don't know who you put in the 4 hole. Until Jack Caglione is here or until they trade for another bat, I'm not sure who the cleanup hitter will be. Because if you want Garcia at the leadoff spot, well, you got Bobby in the 2 hole, Vinny in the 3 hole. Who's going to hit cleanup? You want Mark Canha there? Well, he might against lefties. Do you want Drew Waters there? There's just not a true 4 hole hitter on this roster. They would need to make a move or call up Jack Caglione to fill that spot. So for now, I am going to leave him in the cleanup spot. Ed's question, as it stands right now, what has gotten you warm and fuzzy with the Royals and what has irritated you? Warm and fuzzy, the pitching staff. I mean, there is nothing that makes you feel better than 6 quality innings from a starter and the bullpen locking things down. That's what's gotten me feeling great about this team and why I believe they can still win this division and get to the postseason. And if they don't win the division, still get a wild card spot. What has irritated me, what has pissed me off, it's been the offense. And it's been their lack of productivity, because you know that if they can just average 4 to 4.5 runs a game, they could be a 90 to 95 win team. And we all know what that can do for you in October when talking about seeding. So it's very simple for what's made me feel great about this team and what has really agitated me. This one comes from Aiden. If you had to trade one, extend one, and let one walk for free agency of Maikel Garcia, Vinny, and Bubic, which one are you picking from each category? If I had to trade one, I would trade. This is going to be so unfortunate. I would let Vinny walk because you have Caglione. I would extend Bubic because pitching is what drives this team. And then, unfortunately, I'd have to trade Garcia because that's always been the thought with him. He's not a true third baseman. He's more of a shortstop. And with a year like this, you could get a ton of value out of him. But I would also hate trading away somebody that has years of control. He's having a breakout year. But Chris Bubic is somebody you're going to need to replace Seth Lugo with next year. Like, you got to keep this rotation intact, and that's what makes this team good. I want to continue to put a lot of financial backing to the starting rotation. So those would be my answers there. Next one is coming from Gary. What's up with Steven Zobak this year? Just a bad start to the year. I'm not down on him just yet, but it's been a lackluster start. And I thought we were going to see a better beginning to the season. Also, Eric Sarantola goes hand in hand with that. He was somebody that I really thought early on was going to flourish. He's got some power stuff, and he was somebody that was on my radar to maybe compete in the bullpen. But when you look at, Steven Zobak, it's been ugly in Northwest Arkansas. He's on the injured list. Has only made 2 starts. So you had the combination of not being healthy and not being that effective when he's out there on the mound. So I want to say it's been a combination of just a slow start, and then he hasn't been healthy. But I'm not totally out on Steven Zobak just yet. Next one is coming from Jonathan. If the Pirates get stupid and trade Skeens at the deadline and go full rebuild mode again, could the Royals go after O'Neal Cruz, and would that be a good fit? It would be a good fit. I'm just not sold that the Pirates would be trading O'Neal Cruz because of a bad year. They know they are rebuilding, and what you have to do in a rebuild is identify who you want to build around. O'Neal Cruz is one of those guys. Paul Skeens is also one of those guys. Jared Jones is, Spencer Horwitz, maybe Joey Bart now in this revival of his career because he never figured it out in San Francisco despite being a top prospect. O'Neal Cruz, though, would take the resources the Royals just don't have. He'd be a great fit, but I don't see the Pirates moving him, even if they have one of the worst records in all of baseball. This one comes from Burner. What is your ideal lineup come June? Pieces moving, call-ups, trades, Garcia, and Salvi. Well, now that Taylor Ward is on this power surge, he's got like 8 home runs in his last, I think, 15 games. I would love to see the Royals acquire Taylor Ward because he's got that extra year of control, unlike Cedric Mullins. So you could have Michael Garcia leading off, Bobby Witt Jr. in the 2-hole, Vinny in the 3-hole, Salvi 4. You'd have Caglione 5. Then I would have Taylor Ward 6. I would have Jonathan India 7 or 8, and then Massey and Isbell to round out the lineup there. So that would be my ideal lineup if I had my pick of the litter. Okay, let's take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up on this Mailbag Friday, next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can always find us on wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. I actually have a really cool deal to promote, and I'll be putting this out on Twitter later on today. But if you remember the magic of 1985 and the glory of 2015 or the roar of Kauffman Stadium on a postseason night, this one is for you, and it's a great idea for Father's Day. To honor Kansas City's 2 World Series championships, Nico Sports has released a limited edition, full-size collectible bat celebrating both legendary runs by George Brett to Salvador Perez. Only 1,000 of these bats will ever be made, and each one is individually numbered, officially licensed, and packed with stats, dates, and names that defined the Royals' greatness. George Brett, Brett Saberhagen, Alex Gordon, Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, and more. 2 titles, 1 proud city, a legacy built on grit, passion, and unforgettable October nights. This bat isn't just a collector's item, it's a tribute to the Royals' championship legacy. Built to last, made to display. And when they're gone, they are gone for good. So visit nicosports.com, that's NIKCO sports.com, and use promo code LOCKED at checkout to save $10. Again, nicosports.com with promo code LOCKED. Don't wait. Once all 1,000 are sold, they are gone for good. Again, I will be putting that out on Twitter a little bit later on today. Our next question is going to be coming from Coda. Any idea how Cags' defense has looked in the outfield? No glaring issues just yet. I feel that he's done a good job of handling right field. I want to see if he could handle left field a little bit, but right field's just fine. That's where I'd want him to be in Kansas City, or first base or DH. But there are going to be some growing pains, especially in a big league outfield. But so far, the routine plays he's made, he's still got a cannon of an arm. The range might be what sets him back a bit, but you do have a first baseman playing in right field. This one comes from Comedic Gamble. Which under-the-radar prospects would be your pick to continue Royals' trend of some of their best homegrown players far surpassing their status like Witt, Salvi, Vinny, and Isbell have? Some under-the-radar prospects, I would say, Luinder Avila is somebody I love to buy into. 23 years old in AAA. The numbers aren't great, but I believe in the stuff. He's one of those names. Another name that I think could really pop and live up to some good hype is Ramon Ramirez, that third catcher we always talk about. And then another name, I just always love Javier Vaz as a super utility guy. He's a smaller statured guy, but when I talk to him in Surprise, he's very, very humble, but very confident. And I would love to see him shine up in Kansas City. So those would be my 3 picks for now. This one comes from Jerry. If you had to pick one thing that Cotrero is doing that you really like and one thing you would do differently, what would they be? Also, I predict Cags to be brought up to start July 7th, a start of 6 home games. The one thing I love, truthfully, is putting the best reliever in the toughest spot. That is how I believe you should manage your bullpen. He uses Lucas Ursig usually in the biggest moment of the game. I think that's some forward thinking. And the second part to it, where the thing I don't like, I don't really love playing a lot of guys out of position. I like to have good defense out there, especially in corner outfield spots. And even though second base and right field and left field, they are lower valued positions, I don't want to have well below average defense there. And the way it's gone with Jonathan India, I haven't been a huge fan of it, but I also understand the logic behind it. You want flexibility so you can make a lot of defensive moves and make some pinch hitting moves late in the game that can benefit you. And if you had a bunch of guys that were pigeonholed into one position, that would actively hurt what you were trying to do late in the game. This one comes from Nels. What else does Rave or Cam need to do to get called up? Do you believe it will be soon? Well, with Nick Lofting getting called up for Renfro, that might put them on the back burner for a little bit. It might take an injury. It might take Kevin Biggio getting removed from the roster, but they just need to continue to hit and prove they are worthy of a spot in Kansas City. And I have no doubt that eventually, once that happens, they will get an opportunity with the Royals. This one comes from Justin. Lots of talk about moving downtown or to the Kansas side. Putting that aside, what feature would you love to see added to our potential new stadium besides Crown Vision and fountains? Obviously, maybe something you like at other ballparks. If they go downtown, having a bar district is so important to bring in a lot of people to the game. A lot of parks I've been to, and I've been to more than a few, the downtown ones are always the best because they've got that bar district. You go to the game early. For revenue, you're spending money early. You go to the game, and then after the game, you go back to that bar district. Even if you're not into drinking beer or anything like that, you can have dinner down there. You can take the family. There's fun festivities to do. Having a fun district where there's restaurants and bars and places to watch other games, that is critical to having it for the new stadium. This one comes from Casey Preds fan. If the Royals decide to trade some pitchers in their excessive arms to get a bat, who do you think are the most likely candidates to be traded? Wouldn't surprise me if Jonathan Bolin or Steven Cruz or Taylor Clark or Evan Sisk or Angel Serpa are, because they've got an abundance of arms right now. It wouldn't also surprise me if they really needed a big-time bat and their rotation is full, that they would try to flip someone like Noah Cameron. Because next year, you would have Reagans and Bubich in the rotation. Do you want a third lefty in the rotation? And that's something they're going to need to figure out at some point nearing the deadline. But I would say with having an abundance of bullpen arms, I could see them flipping a bullpen arm for an extra bat to lengthen out the lineup a little bit. This one comes from American. Do you think this team, as it is now, can win a pennant? If not, should we trade some assets for 2026 and 2027? They're going to need two more bats to truly show they can compete in the American League and knock off the Tigers or knock off the Yankees or knock off the Mariners and their pitching staff in the postseason, or the Astros for that matter. Until they do that, they are a playoff team that'll probably fall a little bit short. But that won't prevent them from trying to be aggressive and make moves, whether that be rentals or guys that can help them in 26 and 27. But I don't see them punting on this season if they have a chance to grab a postseason spot. J.J. Picola is a transactional GM, and he's going to try to make moves to better this team. This one comes from Brian. What's the latest on Blake Mitchell, and who would be the first catcher called up out of the young trio? First one to get called up, I would say, is Carter Jensen. He's had a slower start to the year, but I still believe in him as a big league prospect. Blake Mitchell still trying to work through the fractured hand, make sure he's ready to go, and then once that's all good, they're going to send him to Quad Cities to be their everyday catcher. This one comes from Jason. When Harvey comes back, who goes back down? And when you were in San Francisco, what Royals gear do you have on? I wore my throwback Royals jersey. It doesn't have a name on the back. It's just the powder blue with the Kansas City across the chest. I wore that to game one. And in game two, I kind of had like a Royals windbreaker on. So definitely stood out amongst the orange and black. I had powder blue on and then just royal blue. And as for the pitcher to go down, if Hunter Harvey were to come back, which I don't believe that's going to be anytime soon, considering he hasn't ramped back up just yet, I would say that Jonathan Bolin could be, or Taylor Clark could be. But right now, those guys have a spot for the foreseeable future. This one comes from Curtis. Which of these two do you see being called up first, Cam Devaney or Peyton Wilson? Cam Devaney for sure. Peyton Wilson just got the AAA, so Devaney has the leg up on him. Chris's question, if people are so worried about Kaggs' confidence when he gets to KC, why play in the outfield where he only has a handful of games? Has Vinny learned the outfield? No, Vinny's not learning the outfield, and I'm right there with you. Kaggs is a confident guy, and him playing the outfield is because he's confident he can learn that position, and his focus is going to be at the plate, but if he can pick up right field, it's only going to add to that confidence. Next one comes from the Mizzler. Should we trade one of our right-handed bullpen arms like Schreiber, Cruz, or Harvey at the deadline for a bat? Also, what do you think about the possibility of trading for Brandon Lau if Michael Massey continues to play like this. I've always thought Brandon Lau was a perfect fit for Kansas City. I'm curious what it would take to go get him, and maybe that would be a bat where you can flip a couple of pitchers because you know how much Tampa Bay loves to have an abundance of arms in their bullpen. So Brandon Lau, love the fit there. And if they were to trade one of those guys, it wouldn't be Schreiber or Harvey. Both those guys are going to be free agents, so I wouldn't really see that. Steven Cruz, I could see. Kind of comes down to how healthy Harvey is. And if Harvey's not healthy, I don't see the Royals wanting to part ways with Steven Cruz. Sam's question, we're a chunk into the season now. Is there any outfielders that you like? And if so, could you give a long shot candidate and a more likely candidate and an estimated price range? I would say a long shot candidate would be someone like Kyle Stowers because of the years of control, but also I wouldn't say it's way out of their price range. Cedric Mullins also might be a bit of a long shot because of how many suitors. Taylor Ward, if the Angels are not good, should be the perfect fit for them now that he's coming on strong, and he's a better second-half hitter than he is in the first half. What it would take for all three of those guys, probably 2 in the top 10 in your system, maybe 2 of your arms there that you might like. I just would not want to see them part ways with someone like David Shields or Blake Wolters. I'm high on those guys. Also love some of the newer acquisitions. Drew Beam is somebody, and A.J. Causey, both out of Tennessee from last year's draft. I don't want to see them get traded. But if you're going to get a legitimate outfield bat, it's going to take probably 2 of those guys in the top 10. And lastly, this one comes from Lael. Can you make a prediction about who will be on the roster after the All-Star break? Are we going to add to the offense, and who in the league would get the most attention from the Royals? Those names I just mentioned, I believe, will get some attention from the Royals. As for predicting the entire roster, I would say Cags will be on the roster. I would say by the deadline, you would have a new bat or 2. And then I would say that, who's not going to be there? Kevin Biggio is probably not going to be there, in my opinion. And that's what I'll leave it at for now. That's the best I can give you since we're so far from the All-Star break. But thank you for all the questions out there. Had a lot of fun answering them. That'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we'll be recapping what happened tonight and looking ahead to Game 2. Actually, we might have a episode coming before. So, yeah, we will preview Game 2 tomorrow. We'll have a morning episode tomorrow, and then on Sunday, we'll have more of an evening episode recapping the whole series and looking ahead to the Cincinnati Reds and Brady Singer coming to Kauffman Stadium. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.